Since its launch in 2020, the Palisade has been a huge success for Hyundai. With its incredible bang for your buck, the Palisade has risen to the upper echelon of the ever-popular mid-size SUV segment. For the upcoming 6th model year, the Palisade is undergoing some major changes. Hey, I'm Creech and this is Creech and Cars. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the all-new second generation of the Hyundai Palisade, including the facelifted exterior and interior design, as well as the mechanical and performance updates. Then I'll go over some other new features, the updated pricing, and the release details before giving my final thoughts on the 2026 Hyundai Palisade. Let's start up front, which is where the most noticeable change in this design takes place. The front fascia has been completely redesigned and it now looks a lot more in line with the design language that Hyundai has been moving into. The LED daytime running lights are now larger, blocky segments, although they're still not quite as pixelated as what we've seen on other Hyundais. The actual headlights are situated between the running lights and the large rectangular grille. The bottom segment of the running lights turns into this nice aluminum trim that runs the length of the fascia. This trim is used throughout the exterior, and I think it's a nice touch that classes things up a bit. Some more of this trim is used along the front bumper, as well as the side skirts. The view from the side is very familiar. The segmented lighting from both the front and back can be seen from the side. Here, the Palisade is shown riding on luxurious looking 21-inch wheels that are probably reserved for the top trim. We can also see more of that aluminum trim that is used for the roof racks, and it's also used to create a continuous line from the roof racks down the D-pillar. This aluminum accented D-pillar shows from the back as well, and as with the front, not much has changed back here. The rear taillights now have that same segmented design, and they are a bit larger than the outgoing model. The rear end wraps up with some more of that aluminum trim that continues along the bumper. So the exterior is still familiar and recognizable as a Palisade, but heading inside, you'll see some more significant changes. Overall, I think Hyundai did a nice job of classing this interior up, although I see how some might not like the curved and circular lines. The dashboard is framed by this upside down U shape that houses the digital gauge cluster and infotainment screen, as well as some ambient lighting. The gauge cluster and infotainment system are both 12.3 inches, and they appear to sort of sit on the same piece of glass, but there is a delineation between these displays. The elegantly simple steering wheel looks like it was pulled straight out of a Range Rover, which isn't really a bad thing. While there will be a lot of functionality contained within that main center screen, Hyundai has still included many physical controls below the screens for frequently used features and the climate controls, which I would say most buyers do prefer having some physical controls that are always easily accessible. The tubular center console appears to have plenty of storage, along with a wireless charger and multiple USB-C outlets. As a plug-in hybrid, the new Palisade will feature vehicle-to-load capability, meaning the car's battery can be used to power various electronics. Also, you'll notice there is no gear selector in the center console. It has been moved to the steering column. There's a reason for that I'll get to in a second. The new door panels are quite basic, and this is one aspect of the interior that I'm just not big on. The door is mostly a flat panel with an armrest and these circular door handles. This new Palisade will be a little bit bigger than the outgoing model, but it will also be able to haul more people. This is because the front center console can actually be folded up and there's a bench seat underneath it, just like an old school American luxury car. The same will be true of the second row when it's equipped with a bench seat, and then the third row will have a bench seat. So all in all, this means the new Palisade could be equipped to seat up to 9 people. Granted, you probably wouldn't be able to seat 9 people comfortably, especially not 9 Americans, but it could be a nice option to have in a pinch. There will still be the option for captain's chairs in the second row, as you can see here, and there will also be the option for a massaging function for these rear seats, which is a very high-end feature that you might expect on something like a Bentayga, but definitely not in a Hyundai. So very nice to see there. There are also some big changes as far as the powertrain goes. In the Palisade's domestic market of Korea, the 3.8 liter V6 will no longer be available. Instead, Hyundai now offers an all-new 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder with an optional hybrid powertrain that combines that new engine with one electric motor. On its own, this engine produces 277 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque, while the hybrid setup bumps those numbers up to 330 horsepower and 455 pound-feet of torque. The hybrid model will have about 620 miles of total range, which is about 200 miles more than the outgoing model. The gas powertrain will be paired with a 6-speed transmission, sending the power to the front wheels with the option for all-wheel drive, whereas the hybrid powertrain will use that same transmission but only be available as a 4-wheel drive model. So those are the options for the Korean market, which is all that's confirmed right now. This means there could be some changes to how buyers can configure the model in other countries like the US or Australia. While I would say don't expect that V6 to stick around in many markets, there is still a possibility that it could be found in some markets where there's more demand for just larger engines like that, or the emissions regulations aren't as strict. So we'll just have to wait and see. There are a couple other changes to the underpinnings. Most importantly, Hyundai has been developing a new suspension system called the Electronic Controlled Suspension, or ECS. This system uses various radars and sensors to gauge the oncoming road conditions and then electronically adjust the suspension. The driver will also have some input to make the ride softer or sportier depending on preference, as is the case with many other cars. Hyundai has also taken some additional steps to reduce interior noise by using more sound deadening material throughout the vehicle, and the windows all have thicker glass. The new Palisade is on sale now in Korea, and it should be available in the North American market later in 2025, with the first model year for the second generation being 2026. The base model for the second gen starts a little over $30,000 in Korea, but seeing as the outgoing model started at over $36,000 in the US, I would expect the second generation to be similar in price, but maybe a tad more expensive. So with all of that information in mind, here are my final thoughts on the 2026 Hyundai Palisade. Most people, myself included, would consider the Palisade to be the most important model in Hyundai's lineup. So it's crucial for Hyundai to have a successful launch for this second generation Palisade within the highly competitive midsize SUV segment, where even the smallest misstep can spell doom for a model. I think Hyundai has done a nice job with this design. The exterior feels large and imposing, and Hyundai added some of its more futuristic design cues, but didn't get carried away like it did with the Ioniq 5 or 6, for example. The interior feels elegant and luxurious, albeit a bit basic in some spots. On the bright side, the interior still appears to be very functional. And while 9 seats may be a bit unrealistic for everyday use, especially in a country like America as opposed to Korea, the new Palisade is still designed for the everyday lives of everyday people. As a steady evolution from the smash hit first generation, I see the second generation Palisade continuing to be a sales success for Hyundai. So there's everything you need to know about the all-new second generation 2026 Hyundai Palisade. On this channel, I talk about car news like this, as well as history and culture. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe so you won't miss any future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.